we wanted to make something entirely new. We wanted to look into how we could uh, reinvent the browser for a new form factor, and also kind of throw out everything we know about browsers so far. And everybody says they do this, but nobody's done this yet. So if you look at Safari on the iPad, it's a pretty miserable experience, I think. I mean, it's still the best. Sorry, Android people, but it's still the best browsing experience on the tablet out there. But it's still kind of sucky. It's not fun. It feels like work. It's like tabs everywhere. It feels like it's the one application where they took the desktop version, pulled out the UI, and slapped it into the iPad. Same toolbar, same organization, everything. And we don't think that's the way to do the browser of the future. So I'll get Tron to come up here and help me present. Uh, but this is very simple. It is a browser. It's nothing else. It's not a browser. It isn't not a browser. A lot of people build things that are kind of not a browser but something else. But we want to build a browser. That's kind of what we do, and that's kind of what we wanted. And we wanted a browser for the iPad for many reasons. It's a platform where we don't have anything useful right now. iOS in general, we don't have anything. We don't ship anything. Chrome's going to ship Chrome for iOS very soon, and there are a lot of reasons why we should be on iOS, even though we can't bring our rendering engine in. So this is going to be WebKit based. There is no way around that. You can't ship anything that is not WebKit based on that platform. But we have there are so many fronts it's not just a browser war anymore, right? It's like payments, identity, apps, all these things that need to happen, and we have no vehicle on one of the biggest consumer platforms in the world right now. And overall, it's just like the desktop feel. The browser is like second class on tablets. It's like, I have to use my browser. I'd rather use an app because the app is fun. So have great usability, make use of the Retina display, make it engaging, inspiring, and fun. So that's what we wanted to do. So we're going to do a demo. Do you want to do this, or should I do it? Okay, so here it is. Fantastic, right? There are a couple of things here that are interesting. I'll let Tron take the lead and talk a little bit about this.
Is it on? Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun. It was Alex and I have been wanting to do something totally new for a long time, and finally we got around to do it. So this is it. I wish you had the iPad in your hands right now. You could see it, how it feels, because as you can see, it's a full screen web browser. It fills the whole canvas, and that was one of the important aims we had. And it gives you a magazine-like feel. It takes away the toolbar at the top that feels very desktop-like, and it's very very heavy. And yeah, I wish you could try it right now. And we added, there's two buttons there. We did wonder about doing just a fully gesture-based browser, but we felt that the most vital operations still needs to be visible, and we don't want to teach people to do gestures just to do that. And it also turns out by having these buttons, it works really well. And the placement of them are, you can see here, like if you hold the iPad like this, it's just by your thumbs, your left and right thumb. So it's very easy to use. And we added the back button and the plus button. And these are, going back is of course a basic operation, and the other one is going somewhere new. And let me do that. So this is what happens when I click the plus button. You get a screen that lets you do the three vital things when you want to go someplace new. You can either go to a recent site or one of your favorites, or do some kind of search or lookup URL, whatever it is. And it's all kind of just contained in the same UI. You can instantly start typing. The focus is already in the field for writing. So let me go to CNN. And again, the full screen effect gives just a different feel to it. It feels very immersive. It feels very fulfilling. It just gives a different feel to it. Um,
It definitely makes the web page feel more as a native citizen of the tablet because it's not hidden behind all these toolbars, and it's very immediate there.
and so now you can see how it is to select some of the recent ones. You just, I mean, you don't see the cursor, but I was just tapping the one at the top. You quickly go back to one of the recent ones. And we find that this, I mean, on a casual device like the iPad, you do browsing a little bit differently than at least the hardcore users like us do on the desktop, where you have a lot of tabs that's kind of like living, and that's not really how you use the iPad. You kind of just constantly just move forward. You look up things, you read things, and sometimes you need to switch back to something. So the loss of a tab bar, some kind of random access, very one-click kind of hit area to go to where you were recently is not really needed. We feel the cost is too high. We like to do the full screen. And then also one thing that happens when you do that is that you remove the need to do kind of tab management. If you ever like probably fired up Safari on your iPad one day, and you kind of like, you will see the tabs that were there from yesterday, and you kind of like feel like you need to close them. You can't kind of reuse them, because that means selecting each one of them and kind of like typing in a new URL. It's just like you end up kind of like closing them. In this UI, all that kind of management is just gone. You don't think about it.
That's also wider. Like one of the design principles behind this thing was nothing in here should ever feel like a hassle or work, right? It's like closing tabs. We have so many bad kind of UI things that have been with us for 7, 8 years, more than that in browsers, where you feel like you have to clean up after yourself. You really don't need to do that. So we essentially combine tabs and history into the same thing, right? And it works out surprisingly well. I was really doubting that it would work when we started it, but after using this for a while, I really don't want to go back. I never launched Safari on my iPad anymore. And of course I'm biased, but it's one of those things that just, once you move to this, it's like, oh, I don't have to deal with tabs anymore. That's awesome. So.
And as you can see, the icons or logos there is also one kind of design idea we had, that we were looking at your favorites, you know, and I made speed dial for Opera many years ago, where we were using thumbnails, and that's also now in a lot of the other browsers. And I kind of later felt that was really, it wasn't optimal. It works, but it kind of doesn't look good. It's hard to find the one you're looking for if you kind of in the mode where you're looking for something. So we tried to redo that, and it was very similar. We thought like let's go for the logos. When you browse websites, there's this top level domainish thing that's kind of like, that's your entry points. It's different than apps, where like one company maybe make a lot of apps. Just the web is just a little bit different. So we have kind of like invented this new format where a website would somehow define their logo in some kind of format. Of course, that doesn't exist yet, but so we have just manually done this in Photoshop. But this could easily be done as some kind of a replacement for favicons, or in addition to that.
Yes. The important
question. That's what I was just thinking. It's like a blown up favicon.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it is essentially favicons version 2. Right? So it's saying, right now, the little icon 16 by 16 is not going to do it. Increasing that even to like iPad or iPhone-like resolution, it's still a square with this like abstract kind of, I don't know, you probably had, if you have an iPhone or an Android, you have this like icon fatigue, right? It's like you scroll through and you can't find that fucking icon you're looking for to start that app, right? It doesn't work that well. You can't scan them really fast. And text itself also gets very hard to scan. It's faster than icons usually, but unless it's like cut, copy, paste, which you recognize. So this is by far the fastest way to recognize. People put millions of dollars into their branding, and there's a reason for that. And we should leverage, you know, those millions of dollars they put into their branding to make people navigate faster. We also have ways to, you know, if a site doesn't have a fav or like this favicon version 2, fav logo, or whatever you want to call it, we have a generic thing where, or we should have a generic thing. This is a prototype where you just create a tile like this with, the domain or something like that to handle the like long tail things. The way to bootstrap this is probably to ship our product with logos for the top 500 websites, and then let websites override that if they want to. But if they don't have a logo when this product ships, if you go to one of the major websites, it'll have a logo like this. So again, it's a lot about focus, right? It's saying even the URL bar doesn't need to be in the main UI. You can easily enter a URL here, right? It is a URL bar and it's a search bar. So you go to this Modo, and this is using Bing for completion. And if you type .com here, it doesn't go to a search engine first. It just goes directly to the website.
Yeah. So, again, the idea of tabs today, that you kind of like you're showing the URL of the current tab and you can change it to something else. You can like click inside the path and edit it a little bit to change the URL to the current tab. Again, when you really start doing casual browsing on the iPad, that concept really feels weird and very alien. And again, like if you're using this for a few days, you go like, why did I need that URL field? I kind of just need to launch new things I need to do. I need to look at something new or go someplace I've already been or liked a lot, and it just works.
So the other thing here is that these containers that you get up here, they're actually pretty fast to go between and easy to navigate. So I thought I would miss the tab bar. Really, I did. Like in the original designs, I had this thing where you could pull it down and get some tabs at the top, quickly switch between. But it turns out, like when you hold it like this, it's going to be very hard for your video people to see. But you hold it like this, and you click here, and you just tap something. So it's equal amount of work. It's not any more or less amount of work, and it gets rid of it when you don't need it. So it just feels like a more immersive experience. And I know this is all designer talk, and I wish you could all have this in your hands right now. But it really changes how you browse in the sense that it feels more fun. I reach for this now, even over my laptop or Safari or anything, because I want that experience. And of course, I'm biased, but it's really a lot of fun. So there are some other small things in here. I'll quickly go through. So essentially, you should be able to drag any of these pages down and bookmark them in a way, right? And so instead of having folders and those kind of things, we just did the same thing that iOS got right. Just have these screens, right? So if I go over to the screen, if I want to collect a certain set of bookmarks there or move them between, I can do that. The thing we haven't talked about, and we're still kind of debating whether we want to do, and I have lots of meetings, that's good, is kind of the container-based browsing model, where if you open 50 pages from Gizmodo up here, they should end up in the same container. So if you're actually looking and kind of looking for something you looked for earlier and you don't want to search, you can look inside that container by pinching or spreading it out. May or may not happen. The other major thing is the iPad is a very social device. So very often a family has one iPad and they have two grown-ups and two kids, and they all use this thing differently. So we actually built in multi-user here. So if you drag past on this side, you can choose which user you want to be. And again, the principle here is no management. There's no log out button, right? There's no like, how do I get from one user to the other? Well, here are my things, and if I go outside of that, this thing comes in, right? We could have a little lock animation here that if you stay on the screen for more than 5 seconds, it'll lock the thing and log you out, and then when you need to log back in, you need a PIN code or something. But again, no log out button, no. It should just like be implicit. You go over here, it's like, oh, okay, I have other things here. Guest mode or private browsing or whatever you want to call it, same thing. And then in the browser interface, we also have ways to get to things that are not used that often. And one way we can do that is every once in a while you need a reload button or a forward button. And it's not critical. Like if you use Junior without discovering any of these, it would be fine. But you can pull these out and get the reload button or the forward button. And on the other side, we have share and print. And those are essentially, once you get to that point, those six functions, you covered everything I use the browser for, at least. So This is a prototype. I use it full time as my browser right now. It's definitely in shape to do that.
I want to use it. Give it to me.
Yes. Yeah, that's sorry, question.
Oh, what about making this the home screen for BoottoGecko?
Ubuntu Gecko, that's a good question. Talk to the Ubuntu Gecko team if they want to talk to you
that's a different
right now. They're very busy. So
on the topic of builds, yeah. So one of the problems by doing iOS development is that to be able to run builds, you need permissions. Unless you have like hacked your device, you need to each build needs to be include your device ID to be able to run it. So you can like in one build you can only have like 100 testers. So that's why there's no like publicly available.
You can't just like put up a binary and download it to your iPad, right? It's a certificate thing that.
So we're looking into how to handle that.
Isn't there like something like TestFlight?
Yep, that's what
we're
we're
using
using.
TestFlight. So,
Okay.
but you can only have on one. It's called like an ad hoc profile. You can have up to 100 devices.
Gotcha.
And we only have like 20, 35.
30. Yeah.
But actually, right now we're using my development profile there, which has a lot of other testers from other projects too. So we probably need to move this over, and also this prototype is built using a pretty decent rapid development framework called Titanium, where you code in JavaScript and it gets compiled over to native iOS code. But it has its limitation, especially when it comes to doing something as powerful as a browser. So this would need to be parts of it, at least, maybe everything needs to be ported into native Objective-C code by iOS developers. So there are still things to do. But actually, again, like it works really well. Like we had a lot of plans to add a lot of more stuff pretty quickly, but we kind of, it's like a little bit, wait a minute, this actually works really well. Let's be careful about adding things until we really feel the need. So
that being said, there are some things that are obviously missing. Like if you go somewhere right now, we go to Netflix or something, there's no progress bar here. It's like, or no progress indicator at all, and it's widescreen until the thing comes up. Right? So it's obviously not very. There are some small missing things, but we're trying to. Whenever you put something in, is it really needed? Right? So start fresh. Look at these things with fresh eyes. You want the web to be more fun. The other thing we haven't attacked at all is if you go to a site like this, if you click a link, what should happen? Should there be a transition? If you have the container-based browsing, should the transition be different if you browse within the site versus going to a new domain? There are a lot of like fundamental browsing operations that are kind of broken right now. The one that comes to mind is I click a link, and then there's something somewhere else in the UI that tells me how long it'll take before that link I just clicked on will appear. And you're focused down there, you click on that link, and something up there in the toolbar is telling you something's happening. And you're not gonna, you get used to doing this like crazy pattern of what's happening, but really that shouldn't be happening. Links should have a behavior, a property that says, if you click me, I kind of know how far away I am from appearing. And that's where it should be indicated. So revisit some of those fundamental assumptions that have been there since the web started. Other questions?
Yeah, if you follow a link inside the Gizmodo webpage,
yep.
I'm assuming it doesn't remove this page from the recent history.
Correct. So
if you click a link, then it's external.
Yep, that's same thing. So we never break back, right? You can't break back. Even if you move to a container-based model, you need to be able to.
If you move to a different site within that browsing path, that you can go back, but like if you go to the overview screen, that other site is not there. I mean, it is. Right now, they do work like tabs in that respect right now. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the areas where we're like, first the idea was to spend a lot of resources engineering it more so that, maybe then it creates a new thing that's a new site and do all of this kind of automatic management for you. When we're using it, it turns out you don't really need it. Like usually you launch some kind of from the URL field or search field, you launch some kind of destination and you kind of like end up there. It's very rare that you kind of like start browsing through a lot of sites. It's very theoretical actually. That doesn't mean we are not going to look into pursuing those ideas. It just turns out right now it works pretty well. and again, we're so afraid of doing the whole over-engineering thing to solve problems that doesn't really exist. So.
Or problems that exist because we cost them, right? So there's a lot of problems in the browser right now that we cost, like tabs, right? It's this information overload thing, and this this need to clean up your tabs is just like the biggest pet peeve ever, right? It feels like whenever I open my browser, I'm like, oh fuck, I need to clear out all this stuff, and then I can start what I was doing. And there's nothing wrong with when you go into, you start up your browser and you go in here, and there is a record of what you've done earlier. So what you wanted was to go back to Vimeo. You could do that, but that shouldn't be what greets you when you open the browser. That's really not what you want. So that balance is a hard one to do, right? It's also it's a different device. It's a different usage pattern. You don't use this as a desktop, but there are many things here that probably apply to desktop, and some of the ideas here may turn out to work really well on desktop too. So we're definitely exploring that too. But it's very liberating to have a new canvas, blank canvas, and say, there's a web out there, and let's figure out how you can make browsing more fun. So, good questions?
I'm curious about the reasoning behind the print button.
Uh-huh.
I'm not super familiar with iPad usage patterns, but I would be surprised to hear that a lot of people want to.
Honestly, that's just the 5-minute initial. What could we have on the right side? It's not. Print was.
We launched research. You see, it shows you people print a lot. No,
So,
a lot of this is very intuitive, right? It's like, what would we want? Like, so, well, you have back forward reload. Okay, great, and then you get this other thing. Oh. And the talk is over.
All right, then.
You hit your limit.
yeah.
Okay, enough iPad. There's enough iOS here now. We should all vacate.
That's Japanese.